Checking my angle here. And we're live. Okay, this is my first time doing this for anyone who's already here, and I totally know the way. I might get really distracted throughout the whole time looking at who's watching me, which is a justified reaction. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Hey Casey. This is a little less gangly and awkward of an experience than I thought, because I've set myself up pretty well with a fresh cup of coffee and fresh water. I'm here to hopefully try and interact with most of you through communication, or so you can see my face, and a good opportunity to teach you the song Heroes that I put on my Instagram last week sometime. Did a little cover. It's not exactly like how the song goes, but I'm going to teach it the way it was. If you're just joining, take a chance. If you've got a guitar on your lap, you might just be tuning in to watch me fail, or because you're bored. If you've got a guitar on your lap, make sure it's tuned, and I'll give you a sec to do that while you're setting up. Hello everyone. I hope you can all hear me alright. If you can't, be sure to say something. I can move closer to the phone, whatever. This guitar is a guitar from the Music Gym. It's a Taylor. Taylor probably make the best acoustic guitars, I think. We have a huge range of Taylors at the Music Gym when we're normally in class that new students get to play on, and us as instructors get to play on every day that we're teaching, which is a pleasure. I'm lucky enough to be taking good possession of one right now, taking good care of one for the time being. Okay, while you still may be tuning your guitars, if you have a guitar on your lap, I'm going to quickly play this song for you, just so you have a sort of guide about how it sounds. I might do a bit of singing as well, so you just know the structure, where the verses are, and whatever, and then I'll talk about it real quick, and then we can get into it. Yeah, just to reiterate, while I'm doing this, if you have an opportunity to tune your guitar, if you haven't already, do that if you've got a guitar on your lap. Otherwise, enjoy. Cool, that's it. Obviously I have no idea what your abilities are. This might be a little strange to teach at, because I've never really taught in a non-interactive experience before where I've seen your faces or seen you play guitar, but at this point I'm just speaking to the void in my studio, so we'll see how it goes. But I'll try and tailor what I'm teaching or playing to whatever your abilities are, try and simplify it, or show you the advanced version as well. The song is a really great song. You've probably heard it. If you haven't, put it on your rotation and listen to it. It's a really nice song. It's a really cool song as well, because it's kind of just like a verse, and then there's sort of like a tail to the verse, and then it just repeats. There isn't this like conventional structure of verse, chorus, bridge. It's kind of like verse, other part of the verse, and do as many of those verses as you want in the song. I think it's like a 7-minute song in the end. So we're going to sort of split that into two parts. I'm going to teach you basically what sort of the milder part of the verse is, and then we'll look at the tail of the verse. The first part of the verse, the I will be king, you will be queen. What I'm playing, and I'm playing it in the right key, but I'll show you a couple of different versions, is I'm playing a D power chord up on the 5th fret here. But with my first finger, sort of barring the top 2 strings, it's kind of like a second inversion of a D, but a D power chord, where I'm playing the A as well. So my first finger's on the 5th fret of the 6th string and the 5th string, and then 3rd finger, 4th fingers on the 7th fret, the 4th and 3rd string. And that's sort of it, and I'm using, I guess, the rest of my first finger, where I'm not really barring my first finger, just to mute the bottom 2 strings, so that you've only got 4 strings being played. It's sort of like a trick I do all the time, whenever you're playing a power chord, or even if it's just like a bar chord, a standard major or minor bar chord that's on the 5th fret, sorry, on the 5th string, just sort of put that second inversion on. I find it works really well all the time. So that's what I'm doing. You can do that as well down here with the open D chord, which some of you might not know this power chord or how to do a bar chord or anything like that. You're not up to that level. You can sort of do that as well by just having the D chord, and normally with a D chord you play from the 4th string down, but if you just include the 5th string as well, you'll have the same effect. It's pretty much the same thing. The only difference being that with the open D, you've got the 3rd in there, so there's an extra note, but all of these things are inconsequential, I guess. If you just played the D as well without that A string or that second inversion, it would sound pretty much the same. It's not going to be that different. So the chord progression, D or D second inversion, if you want to do it like that, down to G. I sort of play the open G. I kind of never play this, like beginner spoon-fed G that you see in books. I normally always do my Gs without a first finger, without a 5th string, and without a 1st string where you're using your 4th finger. And I just have 2 fingers, 2nd finger, 3rd finger on the 3rd frets, and sort of mute maybe the 5th string. That's what I'm doing, and then letting everything else be open. Just leaves out the 3rds and stuff like that. Just simplifies it to just being 1st and 5ths of the chord. So we have D, whether you're playing like this, or with the 5th string, and G, like that. You can do the natural, full, beginner G if you want. It's not going to make that much of a difference. Also, when I'm strumming this, I'm mostly just doing down strums, but I'm palm muting most of the time. Maybe later in the song when it opens up a little bit more, you maybe turn into actually not palm muting and strumming the whole of the guitar. But starting with just down strums, palm muting. Oh, and the beat is kind of going bump, bump, rest, bump, 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 rest, bump, bump, rest, bump, 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 rest, bump, bump, rest, bump, 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 rest. So you'll go down, down, stop, down, 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 stop. You might want to practice that slow if you're sort of not used to it. Start really slow and just go. But we do 2 of them, then we move to the G, do the same thing. So another one to the G. That's basically what the verse is, or the first part of the verse, the simple part of the verse that I was mentioning. If you're a little bit more advanced and you can do the power chord version, it opens you up this opportunity to be able to do the bass line as well. So you can play the bass line as well as just the chords. The bass line sort of goes D, D, B, A, D, D, B, A. It kind of sounds like this. Or something, some sort of that inversion. And if you're doing the power chord like this, the second inversion power chord, you've got this free 2nd finger to hit the B on the 6th string, on the 7th fret, and then release it again to get the A down here. So you have D, 5th string, B, 6th string, 7th fret, and A, 5th fret, 6th string. And you can sort of incorporate that, so it sounds like this. And then I just forget about it for the G. There is a bass line that sort of goes, but I just don't worry about it. One thing that should be said about it is that the fact that it's all just sort of one verse and it just repeats itself like 5 times or 6 times or something in the whole song, you got to try and make some sort of dynamic difference between the main part of the verse and where the verse is leading, or what you're going to deem as the climax of the verse. You get to stylistically choose what you want the climax to be if it can work out that way, but I think the climax is the later part. We can be heroes. So it's pretty important to palm mute this part, or do something that makes it dynamically milder in some way. So I'm palm muting it. Also not doing that bass line every time, just every now and then doing the bass line. Okay, I think it does 2 instances of that, 2 rotations of that, then we go into sort of what I'm going to call the tail part of the verse. We hit the C chord after all that, so we've just landed on the G the second time. I'm going to hit the C chord, and I just do the standard open C chord. It's probably the first time where you get to sort of open up the guitar and don't palm mute anymore, because it's a nice open chord and you're using a lot of the strings. It's just a nice one to hit all the strings and they're nice and open, they're shimmering. So we're going. And then I hit the D. Okay, so we got 1 or 2 bars, or 1 measure at least, of C. Okay, and then something I also always do, I think I've shown a few of you in the class as well, whenever you want to go from a C to a D, and you go in C major to D major, it's quite nice just to move this exact shape up 2 frets and leave what was open in the C still open in the D. It'll still work in the key, and it kind of sounds nice. It's like you haven't completely changed the arrangement of all the notes, so it really just sounds like it's moved up. That's why it's nice to go from the C to the D with it. So I'm just taking the C, moving it up 2 frets, so that my 3rd finger is leading from the 5th fret down. And I sort of changed the strumming pattern there, so I'm no longer doing all down strums. I don't think I do this every time, but it's nice to sort of then start doing down and ups, where you're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up. Okay, I keep that up, and we got 2 other chords. We go to the A minor, it's just 1 instance of that. C to D, down to the A minor. Classic A minor. Remember to mute that 6th string. The reason it's pretty important to mute that is because the next chord is the E minor, and you need the E to really be dropped on it. Like, you haven't heard the E pitch or the E string, the E note before, and it gets dropped when you go to the E minor. So we're going A minor, E minor, and they're half measures. So we got C, where it's, you can sort of think of it as a full measure. The D, then half measure of A minor, E minor, and then back to D, however you were playing it, maybe up here as I was playing it, or if you just want to go back to here. At that point, maybe just because you did the D with the palm mute before, it's kind of nice to recede back to the palm mute just to go back to that D, and it lowers things down again so that we can hit the "We Can Be Heroes" a little bit more dramatically. So let's see, I'm going to go from the C and all the way to the D. Again, if you're playing D down here, it's not going to matter that much, but really try and palm mute it, or not fully palm mute it. You don't want to make it a huge dramatic difference where it's just completely closed off, but to some degree it's got to be a little bit more milder. Okay, let me play through that part. So 2 measures of D to G, D to G. G. And you will be queen. To the C, open up a little bit. Nothing. Drive them away. To the A minor. Beat them. E minor. Just for the day. Okay, that's what we're up to. The next line is "We Can Be Heroes," and this awesome bass line comes in. Obviously, when you're doing an acoustic cover of this, you don't really have the option of playing with a full band, where if you were playing guitar in a full band, you probably wouldn't be playing the bass line. You'd leave that for the bassist, or maybe there'd be a horn section that would be doing it as well, which would be kind of cool. But it's such an integral part of that part of the song. It's also just like the most memorable riff of the song, so you've got to find a way to play it on the guitar. The bass line is beat them just for the day, and then here comes the part, we can be heroes. Okay, so we're gonna play the bass line while we're also playing the chords that need to sit behind them. The chords that sit behind them are a C chord, we can be heroes, to a G chord, just for the day. Whether you're playing D there or D there again, it's not going to matter all that much. I think the D up here sounds nicer, so if you can do it, it's probably worth doing it. That's how I play it, at least. So they're the chords that we have to play, but we also have to find a way to play the bass line. The way I play the bass line as well is, much like I was saying here, when I do the D, I do sort of like a second inversion with it, where I'm playing the fifth of the D, which is the A as well, and it's the lowest. It's like the new root note. I do that all the time, so I do it down here with C as well. So the fifth of the C would be G, but I make it a root note, it's down here. So to do that, you sort of have to move what fingers you're going to play with the C, and now your third finger is going to go up onto the 6th string to play that G, the 3rd fret, and your 4th finger is going to drop down to where your 3rd finger was to play the C. And then you have a C, sort of second inversion. Yeah, it is a second inversion. Or C/G, if you're a guitarist and you don't get involved with inversions and whatnot, which I don't really the lingo of it. Also should be said as well, I kind of just, whenever I'm playing especially a C, I don't do this all the time depending on the chord, just whenever I'm playing a C in this position, it's always nice to make it a major 7 sort of, and just take your 1st finger off and have an open B string. You don't have to really highlight that a lot, like really aim for it, but it's nice just to pepper it in. Sometimes when you're doing a major 7th, it's like, it's really got to be a major 7th, so you're pushing that note, and you're pushing it by sort of accenting it a little bit more based on your strum, or, you know, like you're doing a little vibrato on it. We're not doing that this time, we're just trying to put it in there just peripherally. So, I've got a C with a G on top and an open B. The good thing about having my 4th finger and my 2nd finger doing the C is that when I have to play the bass line, which is an open 6th string to a 1st fret 6th string, back to a 3rd fret 6th string, I've got these 2 fingers free, so I can just keep holding the C down, or this little third, this 3rd spacing that is the C, and still do the bass line. So, strum on the C that we've already got, take the 3rd finger off, to have an open 6th string, still with the C, 1st finger under the 1st fret of the 6th string, have an F with that C still on top, and then your 3rd finger back where it was. 1, 2, 2 strums each. We got we can be heroes. Then we gotta learn the next bass line. Like I said, the chord that lies behind it is the G, but the bass line goes. So the whole thing is, and then back to the D. So now we're going to the G, and I'm going to do the G that I always do. I don't really mess with doing this G. I don't know, it sounds too wholesome, and I don't know, it sounds too pop music. So I really just use my 2nd finger and my 3rd finger and forget about all the others. So I'm strumming that, two strums of that to hit the start of that bass line, and then just making sure that I open up the 5th string, which is the next note of the bass line. You gotta mute it with your 2nd finger when you're first doing the G, so you don't hear that 5th string. 2 strums, and then really tip of the finger for the 2nd finger, so you open up this 5th string. Then you'll really hear it. Or if you really wanted to, sometimes I do this, I'll just like lightly pull my 2nd finger off so that I'm actually muting the 6th string, so the lowest note is the 5th string. Normally, if you're trying to find a bass line in something, no matter what chord you're playing behind it, as long as the actual riff that you want to do is the lowest note of the perceived chord of what you're hearing, you're going to be able to tell what the bass line is, even if you don't accent it, or even if another instrument is playing it. So long as the lowest notes are moving up in a riff that you want, you're going to be able to play chords with a bass line being perceived behind it. So that's sort of a nice way to do it as well. You can just mute the 6th string and have the A being the lowest note all of a sudden. Alright, G, A, up to B. My first finger's free at this point, so I'm going to hit the 2nd fret on the 5th string for B, and then 2 of them, making sure I'm muting the 6th string at this point. Again, if you don't want to, sometimes I played in the video where I'm still holding this G down, you could do that as well. And then you got to hit the C after that on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. So that's where my 2nd finger moves, actually hits that 3rd fret of the 5th string. See you, Casey. I said I was going to be attentive to all of these, but I wasn't at all. Is everyone following? I hope they are. Lots of waves. Here's my wave, just collectively to all of you. Okay, G, A, B, C, still keeping the rest of the bottom half of this chord the exact same. After that, I'm moving back to the D. D in this position or D in this position, really doesn't matter. Okay, so that part, all in all, just to refresh. I'm doing the C with the G on the top, taking my 3rd finger off to play the open 6th string, 1st finger onto the 1st fret, play the F, 3rd finger back where it was to play the G, move to the G chord, the simple G chord, G, 1st finger 2nd finger muting the 6th string now to play the 5th string, the A, 1st finger down to play the B, 2nd fret on the 5th string, and then your 2nd finger down to play the C, 3rd fret on the 5th string. So, then we go to the D, or down here. I think you can sort of tell, this is why I chose to do it, that this just doesn't sound as good. It's sort of the same qualm I have with this kind of G, is that this D, there's a time and a place, but it sounds a little too wholesome and like, sort of like you're just in, I don't know, you're in kindergarten, someone's singing to you. It's like a Jack Black kind of D, or something. I'm not into it. So that's why I do a D like this. So. That's the whole thing. That's pretty much the entire verse. Sometimes that bass line happens twice later in the song, just to emphasize what the riff is, because it's sort of the climax, like I was saying, or it's the main part of the song, so you emphasize it, you might repeat it every now and then. So let's play the whole thing. 2 measures of D, 2 measures of G, not 2, 1 measure of D, 1 measure of G, 1 measure of D, 1 measure of G, going to C, going to D, I'll walk us through. D, I will be king. Bass line. The C, open up a little bit. And nothing will drive them away. D. The A minor, half measure, E minor, half measure, and the D, sort of bring it a bit milder. Here comes the riff, we can be heroes. Maybe that riff again. So the very end of this whole sort of sequence is you hit that D for an entire measure, or is it 2 measures? I'm kind of losing count at this point, but you can just hear what it is. At still full pace, you kind of want like, so the climax is not the C and the G. The climax is the C, the G, and the D, but you start on the D again. Did I say D? The climax is the C, the G, and the D, but you start on the D again and go to the next verse. So you'll hit D full throttle, and then back it back off maybe with a palm mute again. So we're going. That's an important aspect. The fact that we have D ending this whole sequence and starting this whole sequence, you can't just keep the same dynamic through the whole thing. You're going to have to do something. It doesn't always have to be dynamic, but you have to make some sort of hierarchy between making one a little bit more prominent than the next. Maybe it can be just a different strumming pattern, like you're going down and up, which is going to produce a different sound with the full throttle one, and then just down strums. The palm muting is probably the best way to do it, and the way I do it most often. Or you can change chords, so you can go like... full throttle D down here where it's like really shimmering because we got an open chord. And then go back to the D up here. I didn't really change anything with my right hand, like I'm still going down and up, and I'm still sort of doing the same dynamic, and I'm not palm muting either one, but you can hear that there's a difference. So you got to do something in there. I mean, the stylistic way that I chose to do that is by full throttle up here, and then palm muting back to the down strums. Okay, I'm gonna play it through one more time, and I'll sing, and you can sort of follow along. If you have questions, I'll try and be attentive as well, and like ask me if I need to reiterate something. I will be king, and you will be queen. No palm mute, open up a little bit. And nothing drive them away, but we can beat them just for a day. We can be heroes just for a day. Maybe another time. We can be heroes. What do you say? I had a point in there that I forgot to say as well. That's the song, basically. You just repeat it several times with changing lyrics. That's how you write a great song, pretty much. As long as you can write some pretty good lyrics that are still stimulating, entertaining. Oh, the point that I wanted to say as well. Okay, so there's so many different ways that you can view how to do dynamics, which is a huge part of your musicianship and how you're going to play. So obviously, like the lowest way, the mildest dynamic that we can do is palm muting, like this, where you're just doing down strums. I mean, you can obviously do it as quiet as you want, and sometimes you will. But like, if we're just maintaining the same volume, that's going to be the mildest of the dynamics. And then we have sort of, we're jumping up a level in the song when we go to the C and up to the D, but nothing will drive them away. So the way that I'm jumping up that, or I'm iterating jumping up, is I don't palm mute anymore, and I do down and up strums. Down, up, 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 down, up. Then we have another dynamic, at least to my ear, when we go to the A minor and then we go to the E. So we have to do something to make that dynamic apparent again, like that new jump. The way I'm doing that is when I go to the C and go to the D, I'm kind of, if you have the ability to do this, I'm kind of muting the first string so we don't hear this full shimmering high note. Like the highest note you're going to hear is where your first finger is. And then we go to the A minor, I'm opening up that first string and really accenting the bottom of it. It's just going to be more, I don't know, a little bit more high end. It's going to like have a little bit more detail, and it's going to be perceived to a listener that you've jumped to dynamic level. So we got dynamic 2, doing the same thing with my right hand, but opening up the first string now, dynamic 3. Back down to another dynamic level, fourth dynamic. I guess the way I'm doing the fourth dynamic is I'm all doing down strums, but I'm really kind of giving it a little bit more fuel. By the way, as well, so like I was saying, you got to play the chords while also playing the bass line at the same time. The way that you're going to do that is you really got to accent, when you're doing your down strums, and I guess the reason we're doing down strums is you really got to accent this this first string, this sixth string, sorry, which is where the bass line is, and then the bass line sort of goes to the fifth string as well. You got to accent that a little bit more, while still getting some of the rest of the chord in. But I'm not doing like, I'm not giving the guitar a full strum because there's too many notes, and then the bass line kind of gets lost. You got to make the bass line sort of the primary thing that you're hearing, while there's also like this harmonious chord that's sitting behind it that sort of gives it a bit of body. Say one more thing and then I'll give you a chance to ask a question if you want. I'll really look at the screen and you'll see my skull right in your face. Alright, one more note. Sometimes you're going from the bass line C to the bass line G. When you go back to the D, you can still do a bit of the bass line because it would sound cool. Like like that bass line that I was showing you, and it just allows this bass line to continue. I don't think it's in the song like that, but it kind of sounds good. So you go and continue like just a walking bass the whole time, and it's still walking. Okay, the reason that part is the climax is that you've got like this walking sense of there's some sort of note somewhere in the chords that are moving along. One thing that I did in the cover that isn't in the song is I kind of changed what that walking bass line is to something that, I don't know, is a little bit more major and something that I like a little bit more. Still the same chords underneath, still a C and still a G, but what I'm going to play, I think I play it a little bit later in the song. Sometimes when I'm repeating this bass line, I don't do the same bass line. I'll go C, taking my second finger off for an open D, open fourth string, for a C sus2, I guess. And then back on, so we're going. Same rhythm as this. Then when we go to the G, this is the only time I sort of do this classic, you know, beginner's baby's G. That's my first finger coming off, and going back on, it's like a G sus2 again. And then go to the D, keep the bass line. But the one thing is I anticipate that G, which means I put it a little bit faster than it should be. So I'm going C. So let me play the first bass line that's actually in the song with this paired with a second bass line the second time around. And you'll hear how it sounds. I think it sounds pretty cool. Putting the two together, it kind of opens it up in a different way. Adds a new melody, and it's kind of nice. We could be heroes just for a day. My bass line. That's a song. I don't know, give me a shout if you don't understand anything that I said. I'll try and reiterate it. I've got like a few minutes that you can ask a question if you want. Let me just look at some of these comments. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Whether you have a guitar or not, I hope I don't make too much of a fool of myself. It's my first time going live, so yeah, I don't know. Got some beginner nerves, I guess. Let me play the song real quick while some questions maybe come in. And then I'll tune out. Bid you farewell. I'll do two of the bass lines. The first bass line, second bass line. I will be king, and you will be queen, but nothing will drive them away, but we can beat them just for a day. Oh, we can be heroes just for a day. We can be heroes. What do you say? Back to second verse, third verse, do the same thing. Try and make the verses a little bit different as well by adding a slightly different rhythm or timing or some sort of dynamic. You gotta find your own way to do that. Alright, here's a couple. Tanner asked about some strumming patterns. I'll show you two of them real quick. So the whole beat of the song is pretty much bump, bump, rest, bump, 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 rest, bump, bump, rest, bump. The bums being strums and the rest being no strums, or at least no audible. Sometimes I'm just strumming like a whole muted thing here, where the notes aren't coming out. So really slowly, let's just sit on one chord and do it. We're going, this is the palm muting one first of all. Going down, down, rest, down, 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 rest, down, down, rest, down, 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 rest, slower. Down, down, rest. Down, 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 rest. Down, down, rest. Down, 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 rest. To the G. Down, down, rest. Down, 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 rest. Down, down, rest. Down, 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 rest. The next strumming pattern that I'm doing the same rhythm. I'm just changing what I'm actually doing with my hand, but you're still going to hear pretty much the same thing where you're hearing no longer down, down, rest, down, 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 rest, but you're going to hear bump, bump, or sound, sound, no sound, 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 no sound. But I'm doing it down and up now, so I'm going down, up, rest, up, down, up, rest, down, up, rest, up, down, up, rest, down, up, rest, up, down, up, rest. You see how that's pretty much the same thing as going down, down, rest, down, 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 rest. You still hear bump, 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 bump. Now, you can do that two ways. With the rest part, you can just skip all the strings and actually not hear anything. Or you can just sort of relieve some of the tension on your left hand so that you hear just a mute of all the strings, which I like way more. Mute, mute, mute. Boy, it's hard to say that and play it at the same time, at that speed at least. Then we go to this riff part. It's all just down strums, really. Down, 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 down. We can be down, 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 down. That's pretty much the whole song. I mean, you can sort of interpret that how you will. You've kind of got, like, I guess 3 strumming patterns in there, or 3 strumming patterns paired with where you should be accenting the dynamics in there. You can, shuffle them around as much as you want, but like I said, the dynamics of this song is pretty important because it's just one verse and then there's like a tail to the verse, and that gets repeated like 8 times in the whole song, and there isn't this conventional chorus that allows you to go, well, there's the climax of the song. No, there's a mild part of the song, back to the climax. So you got to find a pretty sneaky stylistic way to produce those climaxes yourself, and those strumming patterns are probably going to be like, a good starting point of making those climaxes. When you have just downs, that sounds a little bit, especially if it's palm muted, it sounds a little bit milder than doing that. Like if I came into the song and started fully, I kind of wouldn't have anywhere to go. I'd have to bring the level down at some point to go back up. Unless you wanted to do just a quick, fast 1-minute song where the listener isn't going to get bored. I hope that clarifies that. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope to see everyone back at the music gym soon. For those of you that come, you can be in class as soon as possible. It's kind of weird talking to a phone and no one being in the room. It's certainly fun when everyone's there. We, as the music gym, are still offering online lessons. You can book them through email a music gym, or if you're already a member, you can find them on your MindBuddy app. You can book through me. I'm happy to do lessons. I do them mostly on Tuesdays, but I'm obviously pretty flexible. I can do them any days that you want. Just book them through that. We'll be in contact, and we set it up through Zoom. It's sufficiently communicative where we can see each other. I can share a screen. I can show you pictures of chords that I've drawn out. I can hear you. I can gauge how you're doing. So yeah, that's helpful. It's one thing that's kind of the one downside of teaching in person is that often you don't have enough resources with you. You can't pull up a bunch of pictures to show people and then have a whiteboard. Whereas on a computer, you kind of get that. I can just share a screen and I've already got everything written up for you, and it's kind of like you're already staring at that and then you're back to me showing you how to play something. So if you're interested in lessons, please, inquire with the music gym, or I'm sure the email is through our bio here, or our website at least, and you can find an email through that. Or if you're already a member, on MindBuddy, like I said. You're welcome, Tanner. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll show you quickly where I spend every waking moment, pretty much. This is my makeshift home project studio. Most of this stuff isn't it's my roommate's, but I certainly get to use it, which is great. Even this guitar isn't mine. I do have some guitars, but I don't know, it's way better than most of the guitars I have. Another great benefit of being in the music gym when we reopen is that we have really good gear, and we have it there already, so you don't have to come in, you don't have to bring your stuff in, you just come in, plunk your butt in the seat, I teach you, and you pick up one of the great guitars that we have, or if you learn a piano, there's good pianos too. And then, we say farewell until the next time you want to come in, and you just get to come in and touch the instruments every day, which is great. Alright, I guess I'm going to go now. I have not done lives before, so having not talked to anybody for the past 40 minutes and still not talking to anybody, it's going to be weird to bid farewell to nobody, but that's how it goes. Thanks again. If you have any questions, follow up from this. This will be on the story as well, so you can sort of revisit it for the next, 24 hours or whatever it is. If you have any follow-up questions, just send them through the direct messages here, and I'll try and respond to them as effectively as I can. Hope everyone's doing okay and staying pretty positive. It's a good time to learn music and sort of pick up passions that maybe gathered a lot of dust for a long time. I'm spending most of my days playing guitar, really.